You're welcome to this lesson on how to answer YSSE questions on idioms. I am Rumeso Adeyemo with the brand name English with RMG, and this video is proudly brought to you by IOTA Virtual Learning Platform. This lesson is in three parts, and this is the second part. So if you are yet to watch the first part, I would advise you go to the description below to click on the link to watch that first part first before you come back here to continue. Do you understand? So, are you ready to continue from where we left off? Let's begin. So, we stopped at strategy 3, which is pay attention to the tenses and the conjunctions in the expressions. I said earlier that we are going to discuss 6 effective strategies for you to always pick the correct answer for your idiom questions in your WAEC question. So, here we have the sentence, had it not rained, I would have visited you. So here we have had, which is a past tense, but it is introducing a conditional clause here. So this kind of conditional clause that is in the past perfect tense is usually regarded as an hypothetical situation, which means an unreal situation. That is, what is said in that expression did not even happen at all. It didn't happen. It is hypothetical. That is, if it had happened, that means it didn't eventually happen. So when the expression said, if it hadn't rained, but it actually did rain, I would have visited. So I could not visit. So the simple interpretation of this sentence is that it rained, so I could not visit you. Do you understand? So now let's go to the options to see which of the options best interprets this sentence in that way. So once you understand this grammar logic, then you will be able to get the real interpretation that you need. However, you still need to be careful with the options so that you don't pick the wrong answer. So option A says, I visited you even though it rained. That is, it rained and I visited. So, but that was not the sentence, so that's not our answer. B, it did not rain, and so I visited you. That is, there was no rain, so I was able to visit you. That was not also the interpretation. So let's go to C. It rained, so I did not visit you. So that's our interpretation. That is, I did not rain, but it eventually rained. Do you understand? So I could not visit. D, because it did not rain, I visited you. So D is also not our answer because that's not the interpretation of the sentence. So our answer is what? Our answer is C. It rained, so I did not visit you. Do you understand? So just by understanding the interpretation of the expression, you can already tell the meaning that you are going into the options to look out for. Do you understand? So all you need to do here is to be careful with the options so that you don't fall to pick the wrong answer. So now let's move on to another question on paying attention to the sentences. So here we have question 25 from 2011 WAEC past question, and it reads, we would never have followed his advice if we had known his reputation. So this is also a conditional expression. In fact, we have if here. If we had known his reputation. So when a conditional clause is in the past perfect, had known tense. So that means that thing has already happened. But now it's like we are regretting that it happened. Do you understand? If we had known a conditional clause, it is also giving us an hypothetical situation. That is, it is already in the past. If we had known, that is, then we didn't know, but now we know. Do you understand? So it's like now we know, but then we were not aware. So what does this sentence simply mean? It simply means that we followed his advice because we didn't know his reputation. Do you understand? It simply means that we followed his advice because we are not aware of his reputation. Do you understand? So if you can interpret the question properly, you will be able to pick your answer. So now let's look at the options that best interpret it just as we have interpreted it. So we have A, knew what people said about him, so we refused to obey him. So A is saying that we were aware of his reputation, so we didn't follow his advice. and that was not the meaning of the sentence. So that's not our answer. B, trusted him but did not need any advice. That is, we trust him, yes, but we are not even in need of any advice, so there's no need to go to him. That is not also the meaning of the sentence. So we go to C. Followed his advice because we didn't know him. So this is where we have our answer. That is, we followed his advice out of ignorance. D, trusted him but did not take his advice. So we trusted him and we took his advice. That was what the sentence is saying. So D cannot also be our answer. So our answer is what? C. We followed his advice because we didn't know him. We would never have followed his advice if we had known his reputation. That is, we followed his advice because we didn't know his reputation. Do you understand? So now let's go to the last question on paying attention to the conjunctions and the tenses. So here we have an example of paying attention to the conjunction. So we have, unless you don't want to become a teacher, there is no reason for not accepting the sponsorship. This means that you should dash. So let's look at the meaning of unless. What does it mean when I say unless? Grammatically, unless is an adverbial that is functioning as a conjunction here. Do you understand? A subordinating conjunction. So, but what is its function in this context? It is introducing a conditional clause, that is, a clause that is indicating a condition or exception that must be met for something to happen. That is, this must happen for another thing to also happen. Do you understand? So, and the condition is, if you don't want to become a teacher, the sentence is in negative. If you don't want to become a teacher, there is no reason for not accepting the sponsorship. Do you understand? Unless you don't want to become a teacher. That is, this sentence simply means that accept this sponsorship if you want to become a teacher, or do not accept the sponsorship if you do not want to be a teacher. But if you want to be a teacher, then there is no reason for you not to accept this sponsorship. Do you understand? So you need to be calm enough to interpret the question to yourself properly so that you can get the definite meaning, so that you don't confuse it, regardless of whether the sentence is in negative or regardless of the kind of conjunction that is used. Now let's go to the options to pick the option that actually interprets it the best. A, not refuse the sponsorship if you want to become a teacher. That is, do not refuse this sponsorship if you want to become a teacher. So that is very close to our interpretation, but let's look at other options. B, refuse the sponsorship if you want to become a teacher. So this is like the direct opposite of the meaning of the expression. C, not refuse the sponsorship if you don't want to become a teacher. So this is also not our answer, because this means that don't refuse the sponsorship if you don't want to become a teacher. Do you understand? Now, D, refuse the sponsorship whether you want to be a teacher or not. From my interpretation, what it means is that if you want to be a teacher, take the sponsorship. If you don't want to be a teacher, do not take the sponsorship. So the option that best interprets it is what? A, B, C, or D. I already told you why D can't be our answer. Why C can't be our answer? Because that's not the meaning embedded in that expression. And C is not also our answer. So our answer is what? A, not refuse the sponsorship if you want to become a teacher. Do you understand? Now let's go to the next strategy, which is strategy 4. And it says, activate your logicality. What this simply means is use your common sense. That is, put the idioms, how it is used in the sentence, and the meanings provided in the options into perspective and try to make sense out of it. So, idioms do not have literal meaning. So, we have to rely on these other strategies to get our meanings out of it. So, sometimes just by activating by your common sense, you can get the meaning out of the expression. Do you understand? So, and I'm also going to use some questions from the past questions to exemplify this. So, we have question 29 from 2014 WAEC past question, and it reads, the children's story did not ring true. So, this means that the children's story was dash. So, when I say that a story uh, didn't ring true, you know, story is supposed to be fictional sometimes. It is allowed for it to be fictional or non-fiction. So saying it is true or not is not even as it's not even a topic for debate. But here, when it is a student, it might be a story about what happened earlier in the school. Do you understand? So now, when you not say it did not ring true, that means it is not true. I don't see that what she's saying is the absolute truth. So let's look at the option. Option A, not audible. Option A cannot be our answer because not audible means not loud or not clear enough for me to hear. Do you understand? So B says not believable. So that's our possible answer. C, full of suspense. It is not, if we look at it with a common sense, it is not a fictional story where we are expecting some suspense. D, quite thrilling. It is also not a context of a thrilling story. Do you understand? So our answer is what? Not believable. The student's story did not ring true. Just with common sense, you can say, oh, that means it is not believable. Do you understand? Do you understand how I'm using the strategies to pick the answer? So now let's move on to the next question, which is question 26 from 2020 WAEC past question. So it reads, the old woman's birthday was marked by her children with pomp. So now let's activate our common sense. An old woman's birthday marked by her children. Obviously, our children is going to want an elaborate celebration for their old mom. Do you understand? Because they'll be like, oh, this is the best time to celebrate her mom. So with pomp, even though we don't have a proud knowledge, just by activating our logicality, we can say it means that they are going to have an elaborate birthday. Do you understand? So let's look at the options for us to see which of the option is actually saying that the old woman's birthday was celebrated elaborately. Do you understand? So A, greatly celebrated. B, remembered fondly. C, widely advertised. D, filmed and playback. So let's start from D. Part of celebrating a birthday elaborately is to get it filmed so that you can play it back for memory's sake. Part of it is to also widely advertise it. You must have heard some advertisements of some celebrations on TV, in the news, do you understand, etc. So remembered fondly is not our possible option. So the best option that interprets it is what? Greatly celebrated. Option C and D is still part of the great celebration. Do you understand? So now let's move on to the next strategy, which is strategy 5. And it says read widely. You know, idioms do not have literal meanings. I've said this over and over again because I want it to stick. And sometimes the context is just not enough to get the meaning. Thus, it is crucial for you to read wild and learn more idioms in preparation for the exam. Do you understand? So you cannot just rely on context all the time. Some of the idioms might be so unrelatable that you can't even use the context or relating it to real life experience or activating your logicality or paying attention to the grammar to deduce the meaning. Do you understand? So the only thing that you need here is to have a prior knowledge of that idiom. So because of this, I'm going to explain 10 common or simple idioms that I think could be asked for in your WAEC question. Do you understand? So one is cost and harm and a leg. So when you say something cost an arm and a leg, it does not mean that you'll be asked to bring maybe someone's ham or a cow ham and a leg. No. It actually means that something is very expensive. Do you understand? So it's a way to say that something is expensive. So for example, you could say the new phone you just bought cost an arm and a leg. The thing is, it is very expensive. Two, cut to the chase. So what does it mean to say just cut to the chase? It means go to the point or most important part of a conversation. Do you understand? So if I'm speaking with you and I'm just beating around the bush, that's another idiom anyway. That is, I'm not just going to the straight point, I'm still giving you details. You can just say, cut to the chase. Do you understand? That is, go straight to the point. So, for example, can you cut to the chase and tell me what you really want? Do you understand? That is, can you just go to the point or the most important part of this conversation? Do you understand? So let's move on to number three, and it reads, rain on someone's parade. So what does it mean to rain on someone's parade? It means to ruin or spoil someone's plan or event. So if I say, don't rain on my parade today, that is, don't spoil my plan today, or don't ruin my event today. So in context, you could say, the traffic on the way to the airport rained on my parade. I was so excited for my vacation. That is, the traffic ruined our plan of going on our vacation. Do you understand? Let's move on to number four, which is a piece of cake. This is quite common, but I still feel like perhaps some people are not aware. So when you say something is a piece of cake, it means that it is easy to do. If I say, oh, it's a piece of cake, that says it is stress free, it is easy to do. So, in context, you could say, the exam was a piece of cake. I finished it in no time. That is, it was simple for me to do. Do you understand? A piece of cake means simple, easy to do. Five, bee's knees. So, what does it mean to say someone or something is a bee's knees? That is, that person or that thing is the excellent or most outstanding of all. Do you understand? If I say this person is the business in a society, that is the most outstanding person in a society. So, for example, you could say she is the business in her class. That is, she is the best student in her class. Do you understand? So let's move on to the next one. Six, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So this means that it is difficult to change someone's ways or habits. I've explained another idiom similar to this meaning earlier. So this is another one. When you say that, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, you are saying that, oh, you can't change this person. Do you understand? That is, it is difficult to change this person's ways or this person's habit. So in context, you could say, his father is stubborn. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It just can't change. That is, his father is already used to being stubborn. So it is difficult for you to change his perspective on that. Do you understand? That is already his habits. That's already his patterns as a person. Do you understand? So let's move on to the next one, which is number seven. Take it with a grain of salt. So when I say, okay, you can listen to him, but take it with a grain of salt. That is, be skeptical, be careful or cautious. Don't take everything as true. So in context, you could say, take what he says with a grain of salt. He is not always trustworthy. That is, don't always believe everything he says because he is known to be a liar in this context. But take it with a grain of salt itself means be skeptical, be cautious, be careful. Don't take everything in as you are given. Do you understand? So let's move on to the next one, number eight. Give someone the benefit of the doubt. So if you say, oh, I'm going to give him a benefit of the doubt, it means that you want to believe someone or something is true or good until proven otherwise. So perhaps you have someone and somebody has warned you against that person, but you decide to give that person the benefit of the doubt. That is, trust that person until you have a proof to say that, oh, this person is actually not worth the trust. Do you understand? So in context, you could say, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and trust that it will come through. That is, perhaps someone has told you that, oh, this person is not going to come through for you, but you say, okay, don't worry, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until it proves to me that yes or no, he is not trustworthy. Do you understand? So let's move on to the next one, which is number nine. I hope you are writing all of this down and you are noting the meaning of each. So, in the nick of time, what does it mean? It means just in time. barely avoiding a problem or difficulty. That is something that happened at the exact time, such that if that time had been delayed a little bit, the situation would have gone south. So you could say, we arrived at the airport in the nick of time. Our flight was about to depart. I would like to continue from here, but I do not want this video to be too long so that it doesn't bore you. Kindly click on the link in the description below so that you can watch till the end. Make sure you don't miss it. Go there to watch till the end. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.